I, a Latina stepmom, spent a night in a motel with my African stepson, and he did a tale of betrayal. Welcome to raw and honest confessions of infidelity. Life is filled with unexpected twists. I reflected that evening, seated in the small hotel room alone with Mitchell, with my husband Nelly away in another city for the past few months. The tension has been building within me. I missed him. Of course, but it wasn't solely about his absence. It was his disregard, his disinterest, that constituted the true issue. Solitary evenings gnawed at my spirit. But how could I have anticipated that asking my stepson Mitchell to take me to his dad would result in us being confined to a small hotel room together, a cramped space with just one bed? I was completely unaware of what was about to unfold. Allow me to share the entire story from the very start, every single detail. Believe me, the conclusion of this tale will be far more thrilling than you anticipate. That morning, as I was departing the house, I caught a fleeting reflection of myself in the mirror. I was feeling a bit tense. But I still managed to look good. Even with Nelly leaving me so alone, I still felt a sense of desirability, still felt vibrantly alive, yet, even those emotions had lost their significance. They failed to meet my expectations. As Mitchell wrapped up his breakfast in the kitchen, I called out to him from behind. As you prepare for college at the end of the summer, it's important to focus on improving your driving skills. Let's go meet your dad. He gazed up at me, that familiar cheeky grin plastered across his face as always. Mitchell was a charming kid with a quirky, humorous side, yet he had a knack for being a little troublemaker at times. All right, stepmom, he said with a teasing grin. But only if you tell Dad to get me a better car for the summer. I insisted we discuss it, my tone brisk as I ushered him inside. My mind racing with the thought of simply wanting to get this trip behind us. However, I was completely unaware that the journey would take an unexpected turn. We had been on the road for roughly 2 hours. I sat in the back seat, fiddling with my phone, while Mitchell hummed to some random tune on the radio, tossing out silly jokes now and then that only made him chuckle. Suddenly, the car emitted a dreadful sound, a hissing noise, and then it came to a complete stop. What's going on? I inquired, making an effort to keep my composure. I think the car broke down, Mitchell muttered, pulling over to the side of the road, clearly annoyed. There we found ourselves, ensnared in the vast expanse of nowhere. The reception on my phone was nearly non-existent, and not a single person was in sight to lend a hand. We devoted 2 hours to a heated debate, reaching out to every mechanic we could locate, and attempting to repair the frustrating contraption. Ultimately, we had to face the undeniable truth. Our only choice was to stay the night at the nearest motel. At the motel reception, while Mitchell conversed with the man at the desk, I remained standing behind him, filled with exasperation. I couldn't help but think that if Nelly finds out about this, he's going to completely lose it. Yet, oddly enough, in that instant, it seemed to me that it didn't hold much significance. Deep down, I had a feeling that tonight would bring about a transformation. Before this tale takes an even wilder turn, be sure to subscribe to my channel and activate those alerts. Believe me, you won't want to overlook what comes next. By the end of it, I would greatly appreciate your support in the comments and with those likes. Upon entering the room and swinging the door wide, every hope I had shattered into pieces. The area was cramped, scarcely allowing for a complete turn. A single bed, accompanied by a lone nightstand beneath a dim, flickering overhead light that cast a dingy hue over the entire room. The ceiling seemed low, the air conditioning humming softly. It hardly functioned, and the lone small window merely overlooked the parking lot. This is it, I muttered, feeling a sense of disappointment wash over me. Mitchell followed closely behind, chuckling softly. What did you anticipate? A luxurious 5-star establishment. We're only staying for a single night. Take it easy, stepmom. The playful lilt in his voice, combined with that mischievous smile, only intensified my irritation. However, I couldn't deny that I had a certain appreciation for Mitchell's carefree, laid-back attitude. There was something about him that stirred a feeling within me, a sort of excitement that I couldn't quite grasp, even if I would never confess it. this heat is unbearable, I remarked, massaging the nape of my neck. I believe a shower is in order, or I might just faint. Of course, Mitchell remarked nonchalantly, flopping onto the bed and stretching out on his back. This is your realm, Stella. Make yourself comfortable in any way you see fit. I cast a fleeting look in his direction. His muscular dark body almost bestowed upon him an extraordinary appearance, intertwined with the subtle boyishness of his face, creating a peculiar kind of charm. However, I swiftly attempted to dismiss the thought from my mind. He was, after all, Nellie's son, my stepson. I entered the bathroom and closed the door softly behind me. For a brief instant, I found myself gazing at my reflection in the mirror. My hair clung to my skin in the sweltering heat. Yet I still managed to look good. I still possessed that spark. As I turned on the shower, I allowed the water to flow freely before stepping beneath its cascade, yearning for it to cleanse the turmoil of emotions accumulating within me. I'm 43 years old, I reflected, and Mitchell has outgrown his childhood. He's 24, on the brink of starting college. And here we find ourselves, confined to this small hotel room for a few days. The idea stirred a mix of unease and exhilaration within me, in a manner that eluded precise description. Nellie suddenly came to mind. Nellie, I had a delightful surprise in mind for you. I had the intention of visiting you to share some time together. But now I find myself in this hotel room with your son, and I'm uncertain about my feelings regarding the situation. The steam enveloped the small bathroom, the warmth soothing my body while my mind raced with thoughts. Mitchell's grin and his easygoing nature ignited something unexpected within me. As I stood beneath the cascade, uncertainty enveloped me regarding the potential of that spark, yet an undeniable sense of transformation lingered in the air. Eventually, I made the choice to go downstairs for dinner and to clear my mind a little. I slipped into a light, flowy dress. It was ideal for the warmth, yet it also brought a sense of comfort, as if I were attempting to dispel this strange tension. The hotel restaurant was unpretentious yet inviting, perfectly suited for a space of this size. I requested a light meal accompanied by a glass of wine, anticipating it would aid in my relaxation. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting a gentle glow from the streetlights outside the hotel. Sitting there, I found it impossible to keep my thoughts from drifting back to the room above. I pondered what Mitchell might be doing at this very moment. Someone as restless and full of energy as him probably wasn't having much fun being cooped up in a cramped room, but somehow that relaxed attitude of his, so effortless, so carefree, was driving me crazy in a way I couldn't quite explain. As I finished my wine, I cast a last look at my plate and slowly ascended the stairs, each step deliberate and measured. Upon entering the room, a profound silence enveloped me. I opened the door, and the scene that unfolded before me took my breath away for a moment. Mitchell had just stepped out of the shower, and was sprawled on the bed, clad only in a robe, utterly unconscious. His half-open robe showcased his well-defined physique, and a subtle smile graced his lips, as if he were lost in a dream. My heart began to race. I never anticipated walking into that. For a moment, I stood still by the door, uncertain of my next move. Within me, a peculiar blend of feelings stirred. Despite my embarrassment, I found myself unable to look away from him. Stella, what on earth are you up to? That's Nellie's son. I reprimanded myself in my thoughts, yet my gaze betrayed me, captivated by the section of his robe that had fallen further apart. What I witnessed ignited a gentle warmth within me. The cramped dimensions of the room only exacerbated the situation. There was no other bed. It was either to drift off beside him, or endure the night in a chair, and in this sweltering heat, the idea of a chair felt utterly unthinkable. I entered the room with deliberate slowness. Mitchell's calm, measured breathing permeated the atmosphere. I inhaled deeply, attempting to concentrate. Yet the turmoil within me rendered clear thought unattainable. I needed to gather my thoughts and regain my composure. All right, Stella, I whispered to myself, it's merely one night. Nothing beyond that. This holds no significance. I aimed to surprise Nellie, and now I find myself in this predicament. Stay composed and think clearly. I advanced a few paces toward the bed and cast a glance at Mitchell. The pure look on his face only served to further entangle my already complicated thoughts. I settled onto the edge of the bed, contemplating how I would navigate the hours ahead. In the stillness of the night, a gentle sound roused me from my slumber. I slowly cracked my eyes open, just enough to take in the surroundings of the room. I observed Mitchell moving restlessly on the bed. He appeared to be in a daze, running his fingers through his hair and lightly scratching his head. I caught myself observing him, though I maintained a facade of drowsiness by keeping my eyes only partially open, yet, deep down, I was far from serene. Then I sensed it, his gaze upon me. My heart began to race. He was observing me. I attempted to uphold the facade, preserving the drowsy expression on my face, and remaining motionless, yet within, I was teeming with vitality. With deliberate care, Mitchell started to loosen the belt of his robe. As it loosened, the robe fell away from his shoulders, exposing more of his sculpted young physique. The subtle movement of his muscles as he shifted stirred an unusual warmth within me. I was unable to restrain myself. At that instant, I became aware of two important truths. I felt completely at the mercy of the situation, and a part of me was strangely reluctant to intervene. Mitchell retrieved a pair of shorts from the wardrobe. As he went about his task, he frequently cast glances in my direction, as if attempting to discern my level of consciousness. His gaze only heightened my anticipation. I was making a concerted effort to keep everything under wraps, yet simultaneously, I allowed the moment to envelop me entirely. Once he slipped into his shorts, he never returned to bed. Instead, he settled into the chair in the corner of the room, and began to observe me. The intensity of his gaze was both disconcerting, and awakened something profound within me. I kept my eyes closed, feigning slumber, yet how long could I truly maintain this charade? At last, I reached my limit and propped myself up. When my eyes met Mitchell's, I ensured my voice remained steady as I expressed, without concealing my emotions, "You're making me so excited, Mitchell." I sensed those words linger in the atmosphere. In that instant, I realized nothing would ever return to what it once was. Mitchell's gaze momentarily darted, then he inhaled deeply, and began to articulate his thoughts. "I don't know, Stella," he said, his voice low but steady. "We've been sharing the same space for some time now, ever since my dad left, and the longer we are together, the deeper my feelings for you grow. It may not be apparent, but there are moments when my admiration for you shines through. At this moment, it seems as though I'm caught in a surreal dream." His words took me by surprise, yet they ignited a spark within me. Mitchell's gaze remained fixed on me, his gaze locked onto mine, filled with a sincerity and fervor that left me utterly entranced. "I have to rise early to have the car repaired," he continued. Although his tone suggested he was attempting to persuade himself, yet, his gaze remained steadfast, unwavering in the slightest. At this moment, I simply can't. I can't seem to look away from you, Stella. I've never experienced anything like this before. My heart raced with anticipation. At that moment, I shifted to the edge of the bed, and settled into the chair directly in front of him. My gaze fixed firmly on his. The connection we shared was so powerful that words were unnecessary. We lingered in silence for a moment before I pursed my lips gently and directed my gaze at him. "Mitchell," I spoke deliberately, my tone infused with both intrigue and defiance. "Are we discussing the same subject?" Mitchell's gaze intensified, as if he sought to experience this moment through emotions rather than language. He remained silent, yet the expression in his eyes conveyed everything. And that was the moment I understood there was no going back for us. As I gazed into his eyes, a wave of bravery and irresistible longing surged within me. The blend of uncertainty and fervor in his gaze only drove me onward. Inhaling deeply, I began to speak once more, my tone steady yet resolute. "Mitchell," I called, capturing his complete focus. "Upon entering the room, I found you in a peaceful slumber. Your robe was slightly ajar, and I found myself unable to look away from you. It affected me more than I anticipated. We cannot escape these emotions. We are both aware of that." With my words lingering in the atmosphere, I took a step forward and gradually rose to my feet. His gaze trailed after me. Every move His breathing quickened, excitement surged through me, and I found it impossible to contain. My fingers grazed the sash of my dress, and as I gradually loosened it, I noticed the shift in his breathing with each subtle motion I made. I believe, I murmured, my voice lowering to a hush, we must balance things, Mitchell. I carefully unfastened the zipper at the back of my dress. The fabric gracefully slipped from my shoulders, cascading down to the floor. The refreshing breeze caressing my skin only intensified the fire within me. The expression in his eyes conveyed everything: astonishment, an irresistible allure, and deep admiration. The quiet that enveloped us seemed to forge a connection, our breaths intertwining seamlessly. Maintaining my gaze, I advanced another step closer to him. Now, I spoke softly. We'll see if we're truly on the same page. Mitchell's gaze remained fixed on me, his expression unwavering and brimming with intensity. In an instant, he rose to his feet, his eyes locked onto mine, and illuminated the room with a flick of the switch. The gentle illumination enveloped the space as he strolled over and secured the door. My heart began to race. In that instant, it seemed as if time itself had come to a standstill, isolating just the two of us in our own universe. As he moved closer, my breath became rapid. He appeared to be attempting to decipher my gaze. Yet simultaneously, he was acutely conscious of the unspoken attraction that lingered in the air between us. As he approached, his hands settled on my waist, and the warmth of his touch surged through me like an electric current. Without uttering a single word, he leaned in, his gaze fixated on my lips. I did not raise any objections. I was unable to. Everything about this felt effortless, as if it was destined to unfold. As his lips finally touched mine, every ounce of tension within me dissolved. His kiss was a slow exploration, infused with an undeniable passion. My hands instinctively reached for his shoulders, feeling their strength and warmth envelop me. The distance that once separated us vanished entirely as our breaths intertwined. That moment was an eruption of all the feelings we had kept hidden from each other. Mitchell's vibrancy and enthusiasm clashed with the intensity of emotion I had nurtured throughout the years. It marked the dawn of an adventure, a commencement that was both daunting and thrilling. That night, the truth of our feelings for each other could no longer be concealed. I allowed myself to collapse onto the bed, my body weary yet my thoughts swirling with intensity. My breath remained unsteady. My foot grazed the fabric of my dress, sprawled on the floor. I sensed Mitchell's gaze upon me, an intense and silent energy emanating from his eyes. A moment later, he leaned down and retrieved the dress, his fingers gently gliding over the spot where my foot had rested. Even that simple act ignited a fire within me. As he held the dress for a moment, I noticed a brief flicker of hesitation on his face, but it was swiftly replaced by a resolute determination. He placed the dress aside, and his hands glided to the edge of the bed. Gradually, he ascended onto the mattress, his movements were careful and deliberate. As he approached me, the expression on his face revealed his emotions, a blend of excitement and undeniable allure. As I reclined on the opposite side of the bed, I sensed Mitchell's proximity. My heart kept pounding. My breath grew deeper as I noticed him leaning in my direction. It struck me that the space separating us had nearly vanished. It felt like everything had hit a tipping point. There was no turning back. And the emotions swirling within me at that moment were all consuming. It pained me, yet it thrilled me simultaneously. I gazed upward at the ceiling, and there was Mitchell's face before me. I found myself captivated by the manner in which he brushed his hair back from his forehead with his hand. In his eyes, I could perceive the emotions that Mitchell was experiencing. He was flushed. He was thrilled, and he was absolutely joyful. I could see that he was pouring his heart into everything, and I was touched by the way he was breathless. Mitchell had pushed me in my feelings to such an extreme that I found relief in the car breaking down. I'll always remember this hotel, Mitchell said, his voice quivering, each word escaping him like a labored breath. His gaze was fixed on me, yet his hands trembled ever so slightly. His body was taut, muscles tightening with each motion, every action becoming increasingly deliberate and exact. as if he sought to preserve a fleeting memory. I absolutely do not want my father to sell the car anymore, she added. After these words, he allowed himself to fall beside me, closed his eyes without uttering a sound, and waited for his breathing to steady. I felt utterly drained, lacking even the energy to utter a single word. My legs were in a constant state of convulsion, and I was completely unaware of how I had drifted off to sleep. The following morning, Mitchell came back with the car repaired and informed me that we needed to collect Nellie and make our way to the city where he was traveling. I was overwhelmed with regret and a swirl of emotions. Yet beneath it all, there was a spark of excitement within me. As I gazed at Mitchell, his eyes, his movements, every aspect of him was resonating deeply with me. Everything felt incredibly intricate. Yet I remained uncertain about what the future held. I found myself torn between the swirling questions in my mind and the thrill of anticipation. There was only one thing I was certain of. This journey would mark the moment when everything transformed. I truly appreciate your support in following my journey through to the conclusion of my tale. I sincerely value your effort in going through it. I would really appreciate your candid feedback. What do you believe my next steps should be? Should I keep cultivating this new and thrilling chapter of my life, or is it time to seek a way to conclude it, particularly since I'm still uncertain about where it's going? Your thoughts would be greatly appreciated, and I will be in the comments section, eagerly absorbing them. Thanks once more.